Well, Russia is one of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, which gives its veto powers in critical decisions, including those surrounding Iran, the Middle East, and non-proliferation. Here to tell us Russia's objectives at this week's United Nations General Assembly is Vitaly Churkin. He's Russia's ambassador to the United Nations. Very busy week ahead for you, sir.
It is.
I appreciate you coming into the studios to talk to us. First off, there was a lot of news coming out of last week's shift in U.S. strategy in terms of Eastern Europe, in terms of the missile defense shield. President Obama saying no longer going to deploy that radar and missiles, now switching to new technologies. And that leads many to your country here, because that does in many ways shift the relationship. Russia had been not very happy with that missile deployment.
Absolutely. I think it is removing one irritant which has been there in our discussions for a number of years. So I hope that it does open new prospects for our cooperation in tackling the problems of missile proliferation, in dealing with the area of strategic weapons reduction, and negotiations are underway between us and the United States to have a new treaty concluded on that. And in working on nuclear non-proliferation.
And nuclear non-proliferation, of course, leads us to the issue of Iran, which is front of mind. Do you believe that this switch in U.S. strategy in some ways sets the table for a different tone to the nuclear proliferation conversation?
Well, first of all, I think that Russia has been extremely constructive and active and creative in dealing with the Iranian nuclear issue, cooperating within the format of the Six, coming up with new ideas, talking to the Iranians, urging them to be constructive. So the fact that we are going to have a start of talks between the Iranians and the Six on October the 1st is very much to the credit of Russia's efforts.
What do you expect to come out of that conversation?
Well, I expect that it's going to be a difficult conversation, because in many ways we come from different diplomatic backgrounds, different national interests in many ways, and this is a very broad agenda. But we expect progress to be made, and we expect concerns to be alleviated that Iran may be involved in some kind of a program which will lead it to a nuclear weapon. So far, there is no indication that this is the case.
The issue of U.S. ally Israel comes up whenever the topic of nuclear proliferation in Iran is discussed. President Medvedev made comments very recently that his conversations in Israel very recently indicated that the Israelis were not planning a strike on Iran. Were his comments interpreted correctly?
This is good news, because any effort to use force in this situation, or for that matter to try to introduce new sanctions against Iran, would be very counterproductive in a situation when we're about to start talks with them.
Would you support Iran should Israel attack?
No, we believe that this would be a grave mistake to do that. So we are urging the Israelis and everybody who can have an influence on them, including the United States, to make sure that there is prudence in this situation and no steps are taken which would aggravate matters.
People often speculate and try to decipher what sort of chess moves are behind an announcement of a policy such as we heard from President Obama last week in regard to the missile shield. And there has been suggestion that perhaps it may put Russia in a position where they might be more amenable to the questions about stronger sanctions against Iran, given backing down on the missile shield or backing away from it.
Well,
is that just armchair speculation?
Strangely enough, after this announcement by President Obama, the American officials are going out of the way saying that Russia had nothing to do, or Russian attitude had nothing to do with this decision. So in that case, we owe nothing to them. But in fact, it's an interesting comment, I think, on the political state of mind in the United States, that the United States is saying that they want to be partners with us, then they make a decision taking our views into account, and they feel compelled to argue that our interests had nothing to do with that. But anyway, there is no simple trade-off. We are as interested as the United States in nuclear non-proliferation in Iran or anybody else, North Korea or anybody else developing its nuclear weapons. So we have been working very constructively behind the scenes. Unfortunately, we have not been given enough credit for our hard effort in the U.S. media, or Western media for that matter. I think our position has been distorted or misunderstood very often. But we have been there. We have been instrumental in arranging this meeting, which will take place on the 1st of October, and we'll be working very hard together with the United States and other members of the Six in order to make sure that this issue is resolved peacefully.
So to be clear, are sanctions on the table? Or are you saying they're not?
No, they are not. I think it's we have the meeting on the 1st of October. We believe that we have to have patience for negotiations with the Iranians, and we believe that the negotiations can be successful.
President Medvedev in Switzerland today on his way to New York, and he has said that he can't rule out that Russia may ask for information on Swiss bank accounts. There's a lot
I haven't know nothing about it.
You know nothing about that. Well, spinning ahead, the financial community obviously interested in what that may mean, but looking ahead to some of the financial issues that may be discussed as we pave the way for the G20 conversations that will be coming up. Where does Russia stand in regard to some of the financial changes that might be having? Bank bonuses.
In 2 words, we believe that the international financial system should have a broader base, and it should be more transparent and more fair than it used to be, and which led to a situation of the current crisis.
And banker bonuses?
We don't have those high bonuses back in Russia, so it's not a problem for us. We have been more prudent.
You've been more prudent. All right. Choosing not to weigh in on that. Thank you so much for making time to come in during a very busy week. We do appreciate and give our thanks to Russian Ambassador Vitaly Churkin.